But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
Should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
Number ZZ9 plural Z alpha. Number ZZ9. I said I've never seen such idiots in all my life.
Listen to all this, eh?
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Like a furry torpedo to the jugular. This is Honey Badger Radio. Radio with Buddy.
But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
Number ZZ9 plural Z alpha. Number ZZ9. I said I've never seen such idiots in all my life.
Listen to all this, eh?
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Like a furry torpedo to the jugular. This is Honey Badger Radio. Radio with Buddy.
But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
Wait. No, it looks like I'm getting sound now because it's jumping up and saying hello, or the audio mixer graphic is showing sound. So I had to go in and go into my settings and reselect my headphones for some reason. And the worst part was when as soon as I hit
Yes, we have sound now.
Yeah, as soon as I hit to start, switched over to our little thing, it froze, so I couldn't do it right away. Very strange. But hello and welcome to Technical Difficulties with the Badgers. I'm gonna go through the whole damn spiel again. So, hello and welcome to HBR Talk 335. Who are these people? I'm your host, Hannah Wallen, here with a personification of perceptivity, Mike Stevenson, and Nonsense Annihilator Lauren Brooks. And tonight, we are going to get to know a whole new family. Not ours, not yours. We're going for the Biden crime family, who I think it's safe to call a crime family now because we've learned enough about them to recognize it as such. And I mean, everything that we've gone over in regard to Joe Biden and Hunter Biden alone, that tells us we're dealing with some organized criminal activity there. But even if that was not enough, the fact that government agencies have been involved and been exploited for the purpose of protecting the mafia, there's actually more to it than just those two guys. And according
call it the Bob.
The what?
As in the Biden mob.
Yeah, the Bob.
The Bob.
Yes, the Bob. But then every guy named Robert is gonna be like, "Don't call me Bob." It might be appropriate, but in any case, yeah, we have quite a bit to talk about here with regards to this family, and it looks like it's a lot more complicated than we originally thought. The thing that really strikes me about this is this isn't the first time that we've had organized crime involved with the U.S. government, right? This isn't the second time we've had organized crime involved with the U.S. government. This is like a regular thing with the U.S. government. Two other big instances that I can think of both involved allegations of involvement with the mafia. We've been told that potentially the mafia was involved in the killings within the Kennedy administration, including the presidential assassination. And then, of course, there's the relationship between the U.S. government and the unions, and the whole Jimmy Hoffa thing, which I'm not going to go over tonight. Yeah, organized crime getting its hooks into the bureaucracy isn't anything new, right? Then if you go through the different presidents we've had during just my lifetime, there aren't very many that haven't had some sort of allegations of organized crime taking place around their families, right? So this is quite an interesting little bit to learn about the Bidens, although it's not shocking or surprising once you really think about just how easy it has been for organized criminals to take control of part or all of the United States government. Perhaps, maybe we ought to do something about that. Maybe. In any case, before we get into discussing all of that, we still got to do what we got to do. So, as always, Honey Badger Radio dishes out a smorgasbord of thought-provoking discussions, and as experiences both recent and long past have demonstrated, the provoked thoughts are fighting back. Wonder how many of them are organized. They've made it clear that for people like us, actually we've talked about that too, haven't we? But they've made it clear that for people like us, relying on third-party payment platforms like Patreon to fund our work is treading on thin ice, or building our house in the path of a rapidly growing wildfire. In light of this, we strongly encourage our supporters to switch at least their support for us to feedthebadger.com, the most stable way to help us out. And if you want to tip us directly, instead of relying on any social media platform's tip jar, the link for that is feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And as always, the same risk applies to our social media platforms, which is why you should further provoke the thought police by tracking our thought-provoking discussions on honeybadgerbrigade.com, where you can find your way to all of our content, as well as a link to feedthebadger.com in the drop-down menu at the top of the page. And if anybody was listening to our Christmas show, you got to hear all about what's going on with my Twitter account. But
what'd you do now?
Oh no, it's not a from now thing. This has been going on for quite a while. And so I can't use Twitter's live features. Basically I can't stream on Twitter from my account, and I can't listen to other people's streams on X from my account. So I contacted them because this is part of paying that $8 fee, which I basically have been doing that in response to the Twitter files and the increase in capability of, there's a lot of things you can say on Twitter now that you couldn't say before on X, now that you couldn't say on Twitter before, and that makes a difference to me. It makes a rather large difference to me because it was pretty easy to silence some of us. Karen was off for months.
God.
Actually, more than a
feels
year,
like
I think.
longer than that. Yeah.
Because of God Evolves. He couldn't quite get me, but there have been some other dealings with my account where somebody has screwed around with my account. So I've been through, being throttled and deboosted and shadow banned, and anything that you can list off as a way that to have your account interfered with. It's been done to my account. But the weirdest one is that live features thing, because there was no argument or conflict that happened during the live features account where I said or did anything that was a violation or even remotely could be considered a violation. And so when I wrote to them, I'm like, I'm being denied paid features that I'm paying for, and they decided that I should appeal a suspension, and I went and I couldn't because my account wasn't suspended. So I went back and said, I can't, there's no suspension to appeal, and they gave me a link, and I had to appeal through a unique appeal system, and then I went through the whole process, got out the other end of the process. They're like, your account's fixed, and I'm like, hallelujah. So I go back and I try to listen to something, and the exact same thing happens.
Oh jeez.
So I went back, and there were 3 cycles of this. I go back, I tell them the problem's still happening, and they tell me to take off all the things that I've given permission to access my X account. Like, you have sometimes people do this posts automatically to your X account, or this thing can see how many people you've subscribed to that aren't actually people. And I don't have a bunch of those. I had like 1 or 2 things, and I got rid of them. Go back, still the same problem, right? And then they came up with something else, and we got back to, well, you have to appeal this suspension again, and now they have stopped talking to me about it. Like, that's the last thing, is I got an email that said, we'll reply to you in so many days, and it's not all the way through. Like, it's a short number to a larger number of days. It's not all the way through the larger number of days, but they had been replying within 24 hours, and they haven't replied in a week. So we'll see what happens. But it's really weird, and it's not the only weird thing that has happened with my account. I've had some other really weird things. There was an account that was following me that was a hate follow, and I kept removing them, and because they basically would respond to my discussions with other people and redirect them to topics they wanted to discuss that I didn't. And so I just started unfollowing them from me. And the account would literally, like, if I unfollowed them from me, I would see within like an hour or two they followed me back again. So it was almost like they were watching for me to unfollow them from me and refollowing me, or watching my account. And so I did this a bunch of times, and I was gonna make a joke out of it when all of a sudden I stopped getting notices when they followed me. And I had a bunch of stuff like that happen. So my account's really fucked up. And eventually I may have to make a new X account and just start over again, which sucks because I've got about 10,000 followers, maybe a little more than that. And those will all disappear because I won't be able to get a message to them. So, but it's just a bunch of weird shit. Like, most of it's stuff that if you said, well, why do you think they're doing that? I have no idea. None of it makes any kind of sense. There's nothing I could attribute it to. There's nothing I could, like, say there's not a goal I can assign to this. So somebody screwed something up in their system and it's affecting my account, or somebody set something up before they left in the Trust and Safety Council, because there were some people on the Trust and Safety Council that were very anti-Badger, but I don't know why they would target just me. Like, I'm not even the biggest of the Badgers. So it really doesn't make sense. The only thing I can think of is maybe they wanted me to sound crazy.
we like to think Twitter 2.0 has been fixed, like, since Musk bought it, but it's only been fixed on an individual basis. It's only been fixed for the very largest of previously banned accounts.
Yeah.
The little guys are still facing the same algorithmic bullshit because nobody's noticed and nobody cares when it's pointed out. Brian's original account is still banned. That's why he's still got the new one, Honey Badger Arcade. Like, yeah, the big people got their accounts back. The little people still haven't. The little people still aren't able to escape the marauding ghosts of Twitter 1.0. That's just how it is. They can't fix it for everyone.
Yeah, and I can see there being automated systems doing some of this stuff, but removing the notification when a particular account follows you seems to be kind of a strange thing for an automated system to do. Right? The deboosting, by the way, happens periodically. I'll be going along and I'll be completely inactive for a week or so, and then I get back on and I'm fine. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of a conversation, the people that I'm talking to will stop getting notifications for my what I'm saying. And I've had there's a new type of are you a computer or are you a bot test. I'm getting about 1 or 2 of those a week, and it's really weird. It makes you it makes you select, or makes you use arrow keys to move a character in a movie theater to the right seat, or some other object to the right part of a picture, and it has a trick to it where it doesn't look like the arrow keys go that direction. So, like, you only have left, right arrow keys, but there's up and down, and you have to figure out that you must be able to go to the next row by using the left, right arrow keys and going off the page. So it's really weird. And the last one that they had me do, you had to have a picture on the left side, and on the right side it had this picture of outer space with rows of stars, and you had to move the copy of that picture on that page to the correct row of stars. There'd be 10 rows of stars, and you had to pick the right one. You had to go through 10 of those, and like number 7 or 8, it would just not have that picture anywhere on the right side. And I'd go through and I'd look at everything, and you could tell that nothing matched that other picture. So it was like, there was no other choice though of not choosing a picture. So I went with the closest approximation, and every single time it was like, nope, you got the wrong answer on that one. I had to actually go with the audio to get it. And the audio was you had to hear, you had to take you had to play a song. It had 3 choices, and it would go through each of them, and you had to figure out which one switched instruments in the middle. And it was really annoying because they were all the same instrument. And they did, again, 10 examples of this, right? And for all 10 examples, all 3 songs were done on a keyboard synthesizer. So they were all the same instrument, but they had different synthesized versions of instruments. Which, whoever designed that's an idiot if they don't understand that that's one instrument, not a whole bunch of different instruments. And some of them sounded really close together. There's some things on a keyboard synthesizer that you can barely tell the difference at certain ranges of notes. So the high notes all sound like they're the same instrument, but as you get down to the lower notes, you can tell the difference between them. And they always had, in that one, it was the same thing, like numbers 7 or 8, it would be really difficult to tell which one was a different instrument. So it was really interesting. But like I said, I can't figure out a purpose why that would be happening with my account, my X account. All I can tell you is my X account gets fucked with more than any social media account I've ever had. And I've been on social media that doesn't exist anymore. I've been on social media that was specialized for particular niche ideas and things, and social media that was like really, really short-lived, and social media that was really, really long-lived. Somewhere out there, I think I even still have an old LiveJournal account. If that social media still exists. It might not. But nothing, I've never seen anything like this anywhere that I've posted before. So, very, very strange. And I really can't think of a purpose for why that would be happening. It doesn't make any sense. In the meantime, Senior Sticks gave us $2 and said, Hannah, how is life as a rebel outlaw on X? And that's the other thing. I'm not even sure that I did anything to make that happen. I think that something is fucked up in the system, probably because of something that was done during the Twitter days to my account because of what I argue against. So, because there's a lot of feminists on Twitter that used to like to false report people. So, there you go. But with that said, yeah, that's basically... So yesterday was fun. That's why I wasn't on for like half of the program either. But yeah, you want to find what's going on with us, you got to go to honeybadgerbrigade.com, because you're not going to find about it from my Twitter, and you're probably going to have a rough time seeing it until such time as I get fed up with it, start a new account, and just leave the old one to be a I don't know, monument. This is what used to happen. This is what happens to bitches who complain about feminism. But all of that said, so what I want to get into today, as you can see, they've sorted this out to 4 families. When I first started looking into this, and the main thing I was interested in was, here you have the Ukraine conflict between Ukraine and Russia. The United States is involved basically by funding it and by giving advice and so on. And of course we have all these divisions in America between people who have their Ukraine flags in their accounts and people who don't. People who put their American flag first and nothing else, and people who maybe have both and think that that supporting Ukraine is a particular particularly American thing. But the more you learn about the conflict, the more it really kind of, the whole thing's manufactured, right? But it really kind of seems to me like an example of how the powers that be in the world are using war as a means of money laundering. And pretty much every nation that's been involved in war in the last century, that the United States has gotten involved in, when you look deeper into it, there is at least some aspect to that war that makes it a money laundering operation. And so I look at Ukraine and I see the Biden family involvement and the whole Burisma thing that we've been talking about, and it looks like another example of, gosh, you know, this conflict is to cover this criminal organization up and what's been going on. Well, it looks like it's actually bigger than that. So what we're looking at is essentially using war to launder money in men's blood, but we're also looking at a crime family that has been sort of threaded in and out of official U.S. government business for quite some time. Joe Biden has been a senator for decades. I don't think he ever really did much of anything else before that. You know, he talks about having done stuff before that, but I mean, do we really believe anything he says? So I look at this, and it really is going to be a bit complicated. So I wanted to get this part discussed today, just because I think some of the stuff that we're going to look at in the future, this information is going to be kind of important. We'll get lost in the information after that, if we don't know a little bit about the extent of the activity in his family. But there's some of it that's just petty, so if you see me skipping over something, like if you see me looking at something and going, it's not really important, it's because it's something stupid. Like, one of his family members is listed off in here as having thrown something at a cop, and it's not that I don't care about the cop, it's just not really relevant to the reason why I'm going over this. So, yeah, I do want to read the beginning there. Don't change pages. Come back here. There we go. Alright, this should have... There we go. It's down at the bottom of the page there. To make this large again so I can read it, because I'm half blind. So, according to Joe's biographer, Jules Whitcover, the Biden family puts loyalty above all other considerations. Which kind of reminds you of the Mafia. It's probably one of the reasons why I call it the Bafia. Bob. The Bob. Ergo, it is not only prudent, but also necessary to get a firm grasp on the so-called four families. The four children of Joe Sr. and Jean Biden and their progeny are shown below. The endnotes section of this report contains a comprehensive family diagram with full names, photos, birthdays, anniversaries, and other relevant biological information. I'm not going to go read that. Marco Polo included only those individuals with whom the four siblings have procreated in the diagram below. And then we have, this is actually a pretty big diagram. But what's interesting here is, here we have one son, two wives, right, at the bottom. Then the next one down. So Frankie Biden had two wives. Jimmy Biden had two wives. Jeez, Pete. Sorry, something in my house just blew up. I'll be right back.
It's an ominous thing to say. Wait.
It was
I know,
something
right?
small, but I'll be right back. I just
Go-
want to
go
make
deal
sure
with it.
there's not a
Go deal
fire.
with it. Okay. Hi, Lauren. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
Well, we know how one another are because we're in the house. But yeah, I really hope something really didn't actually just blow up in Hannah's house.
I mean, that would be very unfortunate. I would not like that as well.
I hope it's not a hurricane. She's supposed to get a warning.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like some kind of weird siren, right?
It's happened more than once. This weird
Yeah.
siren goes off and go, oh, we've lost Hannah to another hurricane warning. But you don't get a warning about a terrorist blowing up a car in the street or some shit. I mean, I don't know what's going on.
Well, you do if your beeper goes off. Oh,
So, yeah. I had no idea how large the Biden family was.
Okay, well,
No, you're alive. Yay.
yeah, I'm sorry, guys. That's really weird. So, I'm going to chalk that up to old building. I can't figure out what the fuck. I had a light bulb blow, but the light wasn't on. But the light bulb blew anyway. I've never seen that happen before either. Okay, well, that was fun.
Probably just a ghost. It's fine. Nothing to worry about.
Well, I wouldn't be worried about that, Like, they're incorporeal. What are they going to do? Besides
Blow a
up my
light bulb,
lights?
for one thing.
Yeah, it's definitely not a tornado, guys. Richard Pierre says, Ohio gets tornadoes, but it's too late in the season to be expecting tornado activity. Never say that. There was one year we had tornadoes in November.
oh my God.
Yeah. Was fun. A very interesting experience. Cold tornadoes are really bad because stuff's more brittle in the cold. So it breaks it. But that was really not something that I would have expected to have happen. Having a light bulb blow. It not only was not on, it hasn't been on all day. And it just blew up. So, sorry guys. Like I said, old building. About a year ago, we had an incident where there was, maybe a little longer because I think it was warm out, there was a repair being done underground on something to do with the electrical system. And there was an accident, and there was a power surge that went through every building adjacent to that area in the apartment complex. We were the closest building, and so it went through our place and took out some of our appliances and stuff. So I'm wondering if that might have been, there was damage, like that happens. But yeah, I'm a little bit flummoxed by it, but what the fuck. So, back to the Biden crime family. If another light bulb blows while I'm talking about this, I'm going to get worried. Like,
Bob is coming for you.
every
The bulb
time
is
I
gonna
start
blow up
talking about
everything.
this stuff, weird shit happens.
The Bob.
Yeah, the Bob. But yeah, it looks like all but one of the children in that family have had a divorce and multiple kids. Only Valerie Biden stayed married or didn't have kids with another. Isn't known to have had kids with another, because I mean, women, it's a lot harder to catch. You gotta have a DNA test, right? So then we have Joe Biden Jr. and that's I believe our president, not Joe Biden Sr. We have Jill Jacobs as Joe Biden, but we also have Nelia Hunter, and then we have their kids. And of course there's Hunter Biden right here. Hunter Biden had a blast.
Several of them.
Yeah, he's been busy. Don't know if any of the times were at a Burger King bathroom.
Ooh, is the stripper's kid on this list?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We are not going to try to figure out who that is in this list though, because the kid didn't do anything wrong, but be
Yes, of
born.
course.
There's nothing wrong with
Right.
being born, so. But like, every family has their wild child, I guess. Then you have the rest of. Right, and you can see they have some things highlighted here. So that's just the graphic. And then it gets interesting. The description is not particularly helpful to think of the Biden political mafia as a spider web. You will get bogged down in the voluminous tentacles of the enterprise. Instead, consider the Biden family as 4 packs of ravenous hyenas. Like, that's kind of a neat way to put it, if you ask me.
Jesus.
That's a little scary, though. I would not want to be chased down by 4 packs of ravenous hyenas.
No. I mean, one is enough, right?
Yeah.
Hyenas are famous for laughing. I'm trying to remember how Joe Biden laughs. I don't think all he's ever done is this sinister sort of Mr. Burns sort of thing.
Yeah, he has Kamala Harris do all of his laughing for him.
Come to think of it, I've never Trump laugh either. So that's not necessary. Well, no, come to think of it.
Yeah, he laughs. He laughs. I've heard him laugh.
It's rare. I suppose
He
you're supposed
chuckles.
to stay presidential, whatever that means, and I guess what it means.
Oh, he made fun of that.
Is you don't get overly emotional, and I suppose laughing is a form of letting your emotions get hold of you.
I don't remember what speech it was, but I remember seeing a speech where he was making fun of them, calling him not presidential enough, and he said he thought he was very presidential, and then he did this very serious walk back and forth behind the podium. President Trump definitely has a sense of humor, and he does not hesitate to let it show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which that's a
he's
good thing in
hilarious.
my opinion.
It absolutely is. I think it's endearing,
Yeah.
to people who aren't just completely, turned off by him because of the bullshit that they've been fed by the media, right? The mainstream media.
Yeah.
But no, it's so funny because they always say, "Oh, he's not presidential. He's not. Well, what the hell does that mean to you? That he, he doesn't have a bunch of mistresses and he's got no scandals and he talks properly and he speaks with a certain cadence. Well, I'm sorry, this guy is in charge of a business, the business of running this country, which is a corporation, right? I don't care if he calls Rosie O'Donnell fat. She is. Okay. And if you're upset that he said it, well, go cry in a corner. Why is that what you're focused on? You can tell on the world stage that people respect that about him, right? Because they know exactly where his cards are on the table, and they know that
he even called Kim Jong-un fat, and nobody got nuked.
Right.
Some people have thicker skin than others.
Yeah.
You're not fat. You just have very, very thick skin.
Yeah.
I have an extra 40 pounds of skin. Of thick skin right now.
Yeah, but this term presidential, and why can't that evolve, right?
Yeah.
We don't live in the 1800s anymore,
So the question is, what's more dignified? Being able to remain calm and retain your sense of humor, be nonchalant in your speaking, and essentially just keep doing what you're doing without panicking, freaking out, trying to interfere with other people's lives and so on, in the face of malicious prosecution after malicious prosecution, vexatious litigation after vexatious litigation, false attacks by your colleagues, right?
Mm.
False prosecution in the form of impeachment twice, or slowly losing your mind in front of the American people.
Mm.
If that's real. Because what better way to get out of accountability, right? Than to pretend to slowly go senile in front of the American people after committing a bunch of crimes. It's a lot harder to hold someone accountable if over the last little bit of their criminal career they just start becoming a doddering old fool that everything that they say is nonsensical, and everybody's like, oh yeah, that's just Grandpa. He's a little out of it. Don't pay any attention to him, right? Makes it a lot more easier to get away with shit if people don't take you seriously. But we don't know that for sure about Biden. And part of me has suspected that for a while because I've worked with people who develop senile dementia, and it's kind of... He doesn't strike me as legitimate senile dementia. Something about the way that he's deteriorated doesn't look right to me. But then again, struggling against it in the public eye, for all we know, that may be something I'm going to do in 10 or 15 years. So, who knows? But as I've been reading, so like any mafia, whether in construction, steel, or oil, the Bidens have had their fair share of arrests and brushes with the law. Even though the Biden family's currency is different, instead of pizza parlors or painting services, the Bidens use phrases like consulting. What is being purchased is the same: power and influence. Below is a mere sampling of the always nepotistic, sometimes corrupt, and sometimes illegal schemes orchestrated by Joe and his family. And there's a nice little laundry list here, started on this page. You have a sweetheart deal given to a member of the DuPont family whose eponymous company has been connected to Joe for more than 5 decades. And this is really weird, who raped his own 3-year-old daughter, and the rapist received only probation and served no time in prison. Which is really a strange, considering Joe Biden wrote the Violence Against Women Act, and expanded the definition of rape, and...
It's not a Violence Against 3-year-old Girls Act, is it?
No, but...
They don't vote!
Yeah. It's just interesting. Then we have Ron Oliver. I'm assuming that's just Oliver. I don't think you pronounce the last E. Beau Biden's father-in-law received an $80,000 plus annual contract for, quote, event planning services from the Beau Biden Foundation for the protection of children. It's an interesting thing to mention right after that, isn't it? Even though
I can't help. I'm sorry. I can't help myself. But every time I hear his name, I immediately want to follow it up with a banana faux Biden.
I know.
Okay, I've gotten that out of my system.
Yeah. Even though Oliver was a long-time dry cleaner with zero discernible experience. So they have this foundation for the protection of children. And the guy that's associated with it above, through association with Beau Biden, was a child rapist.
We're led to believe Beau was the good one.
Yeah, the good son.
Right.
As he's compared with Hunter Biden because Bo died in service to his country. Oh no, you can't say anything bad about someone who died in service to his country, and that's just the story we're told. By the way, part of me thinks maybe Bo Biden died from a crack overdose while fucking a hooker as well.
Or maybe it was taken out. So
wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah, so that's the first thing, is that little weird little web there, right? Then you have Joe Secundi, or maybe it's Secundi, Bo Biden's brother-in-law. Why did it go back to small? I didn't do anything. Damn it. Was a White House liaison at the Department of Commerce during Joe's vice presidency. So you just kind of get this guy in here. Oh yeah, he didn't die in service. Meredith G says he died of cancer. That's right. Joe Biden talked about him repeatedly like he died in service to his country, but he actually died of cancer. Yeah, we have Howard Crean, Joe's son-in-law, promoted his venture capital firm while on Air Force Two. Valerie Biden Owens, Joe's sister, and Valerie's daughter, Casey Owens, funneled over $50,000 from Joe's campaign to their consulting business in a single Senate election cycle. So yeah, a bunch of stuff there that looks weird to begin with. And let's see if it goes to the next page now that I've asked it to. I shouldn't complain too much, because this is a rather large file. It's 644 pages. Joe Biden's brother-in-law, Jack Owens, helped Jimmy Biden, Joe's younger brother, secure $500,000 loan in 1975, worth $2,918 in 2024, which Jimmy then defaulted on.
This is all starting to sound a lot like what they tried to convict Trump over. Like inflating prices in ways that they should not be inflated. and then there's the documents in the fucking garage and all. Everything they've accused Trump of, the Bob is guilty of like tenfold.
Yep.
I really hope history eventually corrects all these mistakes.
Yep.
Good Lord, it's gonna take a lot of fact checking, shall we call it?
Yeah, that's a lot of money to disappear, right? And Derek Workman points out Trump paid that loan back. He paid off his debts. This was basically taking out a loan like that and then defaulting on it. It's one thing to take out a business loan and legitimately try to run the business and it just fails. And then you're either bad at the business or something else has gone wrong. But if you default on something like that and it's that much, like there has to be an explanation. There really needs to be an explanation, because otherwise it's just stealing. But yeah, Biden's niece, Missy Owens, had a top U.S. Department of Commerce position when Joe was vice president, became a six-figure lobbyist, and a representative for Coca-Cola afterward. So again, with the nepotism, right?
And GM.
Yeah.
Which was
and GM,
a somewhat larger company at the time.
Yeah, it's larger than it is now. Right, Joe's nephew. I don't know if that's pronounced Coof because there's an E at the end, but it looks like Cuff or Cuffy. It's not a name I'm familiar with. Biden Owens.
Shall we go with Kofefe?
Kofefe. Yeah, we're gonna call him Kofefe. Kofefe Biden Owens. Again, this kid. Well, yeah. Organized his mother Valerie's speaking engagements for years and helped negotiate her lucrative book entitled Growing Up Biden. So that's an interesting. He's a lawyer. Casey Owens, Joe's niece, was the special assistant to senior coordinator for China during her uncle's vice presidency, and even made appearances in diplomatic cables. That's a bad one. Again, we got family members being put in positions of influence there. And remember that there was Hunter Biden's dealings in China that Joe Biden said he knew nothing about, but was actually present and accounted for during meetings. Joe's donors loaning money out to a family member. Jimmy Biden, Joe's younger brother, secured over $500,000 in private mortgage loans for a vacation home in Florida from John Hynansky, a donor to Joe, immediately following Hynansky's multi-million-dollar loan from the U.S. U.S. government to sell luxury cars in Ukraine.
And you what now? Oh, interesting.
The strangest connection there.
That's where it all began, perhaps.
We know some other things that have been happening in Ukraine, yeah. And again, Frankie Biden, Joe's youngest brother, became a U.S. Capitol elevator operator during Joe's first year in the Senate, and subsequently secured government loans for a Costa Rica solar farm.
Wait,
he was an elevator operator.
Is that a different thing that I'm thinking of? Someone who just stands in an elevator, and a job that doesn't exist anymore because elevators have been operatable by buttons for like
an elevator operator
years?
Is a very connected person because everybody in the building uses the elevator, and so an elevator operator gets to know everybody in the building.
Yeah, that's more of a connection play than anything. That's
That's a job that hasn't needed to exist for a very long time. Like, why does it hasn't even had to exist anymore?
It might still exist though, depending on if they've never updated their elevator.
Well, if you live in a luxury apartment building, I mean, of course, these people don't even open their own doors. Why would they push their own fucking elevator buttons?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it is a thing, especially like in Manhattan in certain high rises. You know, it is a position that still exists. It's not one that necessarily needs to exist, but then again, the uber wealthy have many things that they don't actually need to survive.
Yeah,
it's just convenience, you know. But you're right; they know everyone in the building. They're very well connected, and if you know what you know,
seems like a perfect place to put someone if you want to pay them money for doing absolutely nothing.
But it also. It's a perfect place to put somebody if you want them to have an avenue of information gathering as well, or connections to people that might loan them government money for a Costa Rican solar farm.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to take over all kinds of industries because now you don't even need McDonald's cashiers or McDonald's because you just have the plasma screen that could do everything for you. And I guess in the future, the Biden family is going to put people in charge of McDonald's when they don't eat them anymore. And we're going to have to look over our shoulder everywhere for people who are only put in those positions, not because the computers can't do it, not because the machines can't do it, but because someone really needs to pay them extortionate amounts of money just to exist. Yeah. This is why you need to get the government out of everything, because that's the inevitable trajectory of government employees. They get put in charge of shit that doesn't need to be done.
Yep. And a lot of times it is a way to engage in nepotism or put people in place in pay back people basically that have donated or done favors for your campaign. Now we have some Rumble rants that I missed. So OIC and WowWee says muted audio is a sign that these are the real Badgers, that they have not been replaced by CIA spooks wearing their skin suits. That was a $1. Let's see. We have Occupation 42. Gave us $10 and said, dry cleaning is one of the classic money laundering businesses. Why, yes, we had $5,000 cash paying or 5,000 cash paying customers last month. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is one of the classics. It's why it's dry cleaning. Going into dry cleaning businesses is featured in certain action movies in regard to crime, like somebody's trying to hide in there and so on. Sort of a callback to that. But yeah, so we just have this little bits of tentacles and tendrils sticking out into different places of the government. Frankie Biden flaunted his family's last name in an advertisement for a charter school scam. Wasn't that one of the things that Trump was accused of, a charter school scam? But Frankie Biden had one, and they got links, or media links for all of this, right? This one's an interesting one here. We're looking at, that was 266. Maybe 286. That's 86. So that's this one, Casey Owens. We go down here to the news story. She wielded considerable influence over the direction of U.S.-China relations between 2009 and 2011, as she described her team as advising former Treasury Secretary Jim Geithner and responsible for coordinating the priorities within the agenda for the dialogue. Boy, try to say that 10 times fast. The priorities within the agenda for the dialogue. And spearheading the negotiations of proposals. So, Natalie Winters, Natalie Winters, Biden says his family weren't involved in government during Obama administration. National Pulse, March 2021. So apparently they were quite involved. Like every single one of these, there's something, right? That they're linking to prove that thing they're talking about. Don't want to turn the page. And it's turning the page. There we go. It's a little slow. So a reporter from Delaware, Sam Waltz, recorded the Biden's political and business operation as it was described by Joe's own Senate staff. Joe says that when someone helps his family, it's just like helping Joe. Indeed, from vacation homes to shell corporations, anything even adjacently touching the Bidens was a family affair. Stunned with this behavior, Tony Bobulinski quipped early on in their ill-fated venture to another would-be Biden partner, James Gilliar, about Jimmy's encroachment. What is the deal with Jim Biden? He wasn't a part of this discussion, but now seems like a focal point. Gilliar said, with Hunter's demons, it could be good to have Jimmy as a backup. He strengthens our unique selling proposition, USP, to the Chinese, as it looks like a truly family business. All that Gilliar could muster up in response to Tony's repeated questions was that Jimmy was an unsolicited consultant. So there they go, using the word consultant. On what matters did Jimmy consult for the team? When it came to detailed business strategies and operations, precisely nothing. Jimmy wanted to use Joe's relationships with foreign leaders and oligarchs, forged through Joe's public office, for the benefit of the Biden family via their One Belt, One Road joint venture with CEFC Energy, Sinohawk. What Bobulinski did not realize is that in the Biden clan, the spoils would go to all. As the report will demonstrate, Jimmy's behavior was akin to a pack of hyenas after one of them made a kill. So essentially, here we have, here's the images of those, by the way. I guess this was in text. This was messages on WhatsApp on a BlackBerry. See if I can hold this up enough. Soon after Biden was first elected in 1972. So this goes clear back to the year I was born, right? This is one of the first references. The reference for the first paragraph, the first statement about helping Joe. Why did it shrink? It didn't do that. Sorry, guys. This is so much fun. Could be worse, though, is because it won't do any of this. It won't let me read any of it if I try to download it. So, soon after Biden was first elected in 1972, banks from 3 states lined up to finance his brother James Biden's new disco in suburban Wilmington. When the club defaulted, Biden blamed the banks for exploiting his 23-year-old sibling and for pressuring his office to get the money back. They didn't. Despite this, over the years, many Biden-related projects have proved irresistible to local, national, and lately Chinese business people. Which, again, is pretty characteristic of money laundering. So they sell the influence, and the way to purchase the influence is to finance a business that is going to be allowed to fail. Like any pack of hyenas, the Bidens had to deal with internal fighting. Shortly after Bo's death, Hunter and Bo's widow, Hallie Oliver Biden, began an affair. That's kind of... Didn't realize she was with both of those guys. Okay. Which Joe praised in March 2017. We are all lucky that Hunter and Hallie have found each other as they were putting their lives together again after such sadness. They have mine and Jill's full, complete support, and we are happy for them. Hunter's then wife, Kathleen, had kicked Hunter out of the family home the previous summer. So he got kicked out of his home. And, yeah, based on screenshots of articles and Hallie's iMessages with Hunter's daughter, Hunter was aware of the press coverage and stress his adulterous relationship caused. So he basically screwed his sister-in-law after his brother died and got kicked out by his wife because of it. That's great.
Disgusting.
And there was quite a bit of press coverage there.
It's just nasty. Just fucking nasty. Like, yeah, my husband's dead. Let me go fuck his brother. Whatever.
We lost a page there again. Damn it. There we go. So, of course, then their divorce was ugly. One particular ugly dispute featured Hunter's attorney, Sarah Mancinelli, drafting an incredible letter to Kathleen's attorney, which denounced a supposed blackmail attempt by Kathleen and Hunter's classmate at Georgetown, Chris D'Amato, concerning Joe's financial prospects after leaving the vice presidency. Hunter has learned that Kathleen intends, upon advice of Hunter's former close friend and now de facto advisor, that's spelled in context, to Kathleen, Chris D'Amato, son of former 3-term U.S. Senator from New York, Alphonse D'Amato, to release purportedly compromising photos of Hunter to the media. In addition to the continued threats to release these photographs to the media, Hunter has learned that Kathleen's settlement posture is premised on her expectation that Hunter's father will backstop any financial arrangement eventually reached between the parties. Indeed, Kathleen's expectation has even been communicated to Hunter's father. Given that her support is forever tied to Hunter's ability to earn an income, Kathleen should be as committed to Hunter's success as he is. So, yeah, they're she tried to use the divorce to to blackmail Joe. This is getting worse and worse. Like this family is essentially the trailer park mafia.
I mean, it's just nobody I would ever want to associate myself with. Like, just
Right.
all in one family tree.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
So what I'm getting from this, like we keep going forward with this. Like, okay, so I live in Dayton. Richard Beer just mentioned it. I live in Dayton, Ohio. All right. To the south of Dayton is this wonderful city of Cincinnati. It has a great baseball team. Not always the best baseball team, but when they are, it's wonderful to watch. But that's not the only thing Cincinnati is famous for, right? You have Jerry Springer came out of Cincinnati, the former mayor of Cincinnati, who, after getting ousted from office and getting convicted of writing a bad check to a prostitute, Jerry Springer started a TV show, talk show, where he essentially showcased the sideshow that was the underbelly of the American population. And people would come on the Jerry Springer show to tell everybody how fucked up they were. And I mean, if you look up old episodes of the Jerry Springer show, people that have never seen it, it was really a circus sideshow. The whole thing, from early episodes on, was just it was designed to showcase conflicts that took place in families like this. The biggest difference between Joe Biden's family and the people on the Jerry Springer show was that Joe Biden,
The number of teeth.
Joe Biden was a United States Senator with the power of a United States Senator for decades. And then he became vice president. And then he became president.
And then there's Harambe. Is he the most famous resident of Cincinnati, possibly behind Jerry Springer, or is Harambe overtaken Jerry Springer? It's like the two most famous controversial figures from Cincinnati are a Jewish American and an African American.
Yeah. That's really awful.
Sorry.
That he was probably more famous right now than Jerry Springer because there's at least one generation that has no memory of Jerry Springer at all. Of course, there is another resident of Cincinnati that's quite famous. Big Butter Jesus. Can't forget Big Butter Jesus.
Who's that?
Oh my gosh. You have to look up the song. Big Butter Jesus. It just... there was a church just north of Cincinnati that created a humongous statue of Jesus in front of the church. And it also got called Touchdown Jesus. It was just a bust, but I mean it was a whole story and a half tall. Big statue. And it looked like butter. It was the color of butter. And a few years ago, it's been quite a while now, got struck by lightning and burned.
Jeez.
And so they replaced it with another giant statue of Jesus that everybody calls Buddy Jesus. So,
Oh, I've seen that. That's a meme, right?
well, there's a couple of other
This big,
Buddy Jesus
sort of
statues.
fiberglass Jesus thing.
It's not
Giving
fiberglass.
the thumbs up.
The one with the thumbs up is actually not real. But this one, the one in Cincinnati, let me see if I can find. See if it'll come up if I just search Big Butter Jesus. Yeah, so you can sort of see. There's the video, Big Butter Jesus. There's a new verse added in 2012 because of the fire. Which so this is the original sculpture, the original Big Butter Jesus. Next to what happened here. Let's see. You can click on it and, well, fine. We'll just...
That's a damn good pose. It's way better than Christ the Redeemer.
Yeah.
Like,
So
his hands to the sky as like, what the fuck is this kind of pose?
yeah.
It's like the Italian hand gesture, but par excellence. Like, hands to the sky, going, the fuck is this shit?
So here you can see, this is even better. It's not opening the image, but yeah, there we go. I'm gonna open that image in a new tab so you can actually see it up close. How big will it make it? Yeah, there we go. Gonna have to move it in the window for the viewers though, because they can't see it. So here's the video window moving. Maybe. There we... May have moved it too fast. There we go. So you can see there, on the left is Big Butter Jesus. On the right is what it looked like when it was on fire.
Oh.
Yeah.
How do you set fire to a stone statue? I don't
It wasn't stone.
Oh.
The manufacturing materials were flammable, which was a really dumb idea since it was taller than everything else around it. And so it got struck by lightning. That's how it caught fire. But yeah, that's... And there were so many memes. They also, like I said, they called it the Touchdown Jesus. There were memes of the Touchdown Jesus with the football going in between his hands as the as the the kick. But this one I like. Get rid of that just because. We'll let that open. Yeah, Touchdown Jesus. People really took this image very serious. This statue very seriously.
I love that.
Is it supposed to be a pancake?
That's a pizza.
Pizza pie.
Pizza pie. Come on.
Okay.
All right, and they replaced
What's
him
you?
when he burned down. They replaced him. They're calling him Buddy Jesus, and they're calling him Hug Me Jesus. So this is Hug Me Jesus. Much more inviting. He doesn't look so upset anymore, you know. And he's been there. They made him out of something that's less flammable, so he can get struck by lightning and not burn down. But yeah, I think as far as residents of Cincinnati though, oh, this is our after show. We'll talk about this in a minute.
Wait, what?
Yes, we're going to look at empty corsets.
Everything you know about corsets is false. Okay.
Yep. We're going to be debunking some old-fashioned feminist victimhood during the after show. All right.
I don't know anything about corsets, but apparently it's all fake.
Yes, everything you know about corsets. Feminists have complained a lot about corsets. But, yeah, so we have the blackmail attempt. We have the Jerry Springer blackmail attempt. It gets worse. Right? 1 year after kicking Hunter out of the house, Kathleen sent him the following email. Not only did you cheat on me, Viagra and Cialis, but you all actually bought her expensive gifts. Kathleen also understandably mourned the fact that she had lost the Biden family that she thought was hers. Over 3 years later, Kathleen's relationship with Hunter was still rocky. She badgered him about expenses for the girls, her monthly payment, that he was legally required to pay. Even though they continued to come together for birthdays, their relationship had completely deteriorated. Here we go. Hunter complained about Kathleen's insistence that he follow the terms of their divorce settlement. I cashed Maisie's college fund, to which she said, I don't care where you get the money, tuitions are your responsibility too. So there's like all this badgering going on about this money. There's all this back and forth. And I mean, there's checks pictured here, insurance policies, right? And of course, the New York Post broke this story about their family affair. Then Hunter and Holly move in together, rent a home, then get the windfall from the life insurance policy, which quite a bit of money there, $2 million plus. Holly sent her two children to an upscale school, not a public school. Even though there was documented evidence of liquid assets and hundreds of thousands of dollars for fur coat shopping and sprees and drugs, Holly did not pay tuition for her children at the school. She was sued, and after several settlements, quietly settled the case. So basically, didn't pay their bills. They had all that money, didn't pay their bills. Right before Joe runs for president. And again, this is piddly-Annie stuff for the most part. But when you look at it as a whole family, we are looking at specifically a family that thinks they can get away with anything. And we want this page. So this is all pretty much more of the same. So the rest of this part of the report, the business-related crimes, this is where we get into more of the stuff that Joe is covering up. You see a family, yeah, they can get away, and Jen Bottle says, and can, Hannah, they can get away with just about anything because they're able to launder money and pay people off. Meredith G gave us $5 and said, HBR Talk 335, the whole Trump isn't presidential thing is the last-ditch effort of those who can't argue about Trump's competence. If one thinks that the founding fathers engaged in decorum, one is deluded. Politicians have always been nasty and harsh with each other, and the primary sources of the time showed how nasty they are. And in fact, politicians in early America who were the best of friends when they were rebelling against King George, were knocked down, drag out, dirty fighters when they were running against each other for political office. So, yeah, and then they were friends again afterward. Some of them. So you have that little bit that we just looked at. We'll get into this for a little bit, and then we will probably continue this next week. But, let's see. I think I'm going to start here. Kaufman, Joe's longtime confident and wise man who replaced him in the Senate when he became vice president, Ted Kaufman, described the environment which produced the business crimes of the Biden family as the Delaware way. In fact, Kaufman credited Joe as the kind of person who helped create the Delaware way. And while many commentators posit that Beau was the spitting image of his father, Hunter edged out Beau at Joe's corruption tango. Indeed, Hunter's entire life, not just his professional career, was a kaleidoscope of shell companies, large round-dollar wire transfers, and corrupt foreign and domestic oligarchs. American history is replete with white and blue-collar crime families, and the Biden are a unique mix of both. The family was involved in both petty and elaborate financial corruption schemes, Eastern European energy companies, and multi-million-dollar consulting contracts with firms run by CCP-linked operatives. Said differently, shell companies are as common with the Bidens as shellfish off the coast of Nantucket, where the Bidens spend every Thanksgiving.
Good Lord.
So we have three different sections here, or three different types of crimes they're going to describe. There's stuff that's sketchy, raises the potential for conflict of interest. There's unethical nepotistic stuff that's not got enough information to prove that it's illegal. And then there's stuff that is definitely illegal, perhaps both civil and criminal penalties, right? So, smell smoke from a fire, see smoke from a fire, the fire is visible, is the way that they've divided this up. And what we just went through basically was the family likes to play with matches, right? And this is a family that, I don't know, imagine if the Hatfields and the McCoys got together and started a crime syndicate. Like, this is what I'm seeing here with the Bidens. And this is, I want to remind you, this is who pushed through America's involvement in a military conflict to support an American CIA installed executive officer in Ukraine that was rejected by a large portion of the population, which America then hired religious fighters from Afghanistan to genocide. And now America is funding their war with Russia. So this is the same family. This is the same Biden that created all of that. That was a part of creating all of that while he was in the Obama administration. Mocking Moniker said, "Well, yeah, dollar bills can't go in the washer." Yeah. Gotta launder them in something else. I will point that out. That looked like for a minute, I don't know why this gives us this comes through as a different color. It's got, the chat in Rumble is color-coded. So I have some that come through as green, and some that come through as purple, some that come through as blue, and it creates a background for them that's similar to the Rumble rant. Very strange. I'm hoping, Jen Bottle says, I think Trump will flush Ukraine. I'm hoping that Trump ends the conflict in Ukraine, or at least gets the United States out of it.
Yeah.
So you look through here. What did bucket number 3 contain? After a comprehensive review of the Biden laptop, only a table with 4 columns adequately conveyed the contents. The business crimes listed below are in the order in which they appear in the report. Unless stated otherwise, Hunter was involved in the criminal act, and those listed in the 3rd column are his accomplices, or in some cases his co-conspirators. So, we are looking at, this isn't small, right? You can see it goes all the way down behind us. This takes up the entire rest of the page. All but the little blurb at the bottom that is the reference.
For those of you who are just listening to this on Spreaker, I'm afraid you're going to have to go to one of the video suppliers to get the full context of what we're talking about, because there's a lot of information here.
Yeah. And the link in the low bar that is, let me drop this here, and I gotta look at my other screen. I gotta look at, there it is. That says the Biden report. That's the link to this. This is page 57 of the Biden report. So we have the column, the first column here is when, and so it has dates ranging from 2011 all the way up through 2016. Then it says where. A lot of this says DDC. Some of it says SDNY, something New York, SDNY. Some of it takes place in California, Arkansas, Pennsylvania, mostly DDC. The accomplices, there's a variety of accomplices listed here, but some of them feature a lot. You have, interestingly, Devin Archer and Eric Schwerin. Just want to remind you that Devin Archer was the one who was involved with Hunter's first business in China, business endeavor in China, and he was photographed with Joe Biden in the White House. He was involved with the Burisma stuff, and I think he's the one that went to jail for it. Got Gary Fears, Jimmy Bulger, Jimmy Biden, Rob Walker, John Sandwick. A lot of these involved Devin Archer early on. And then when he's out, you get more Bidens in this list. A lot of it says Jimmy and Sarah Biden, Ho Patrick. Then as you get farther down into 2012, we have Joe and Tony Blinken. Here's an interesting one. In 2015, Devin Archer and U.S. State Department official. Not a name. Then we have Blue Star Strategies mentioned a couple times. Right? And John Flynn in 2016. Then there's more. On the next page, there is an entire page. The win goes from 2016 into 2017. And each of these lines, there are at least 20 lines here. Probably closer to 30. Most of them DDC, some of them SDNY. One location is D&J. Like this is, they were all around the East Coast. And again, you see Blue Star Strategies repeatedly. Devin Archer's still there repeatedly. See repetitions of Jeff Cooper. That's another name that repeats. Names we've heard going through here. Definitely worth looking at this if you get a chance. And the what column, which is the fourth column in both of these, seems to have the sections of federal law that were violated. Everything has at least one section of federal law violated by whatever was done during each of these. Some of them also have other sections. So, like the second one in 2011 has 2. But there are some of them that have quite a bit. Something that took place on 3/20/2018 has, see, there's 1, 2, 3, and an Arkansas code. 3 federal violations and an Arkansas code. Another one that took place in 2018 has 3 and a Pennsylvania code, Pennsylvania statute. So there's some of them that violated a whole bunch of different laws. One action or one set of actions. And I believe this continues again on the next page, but I might be wrong. But, yeah. So we're looking at, it continues on, takes up the entire next page except for a paragraph, and then the top quarter of the following page. So we're looking at dozens. Richard Beer says either Southern District of New York or Sanitation Department of New York is SDNY, and it's probably Southern District, although sanitation is another thing that the mafia got into. Makes a great way to dispose of unwanted things. So you can see this was quite a prolific crime family. We are looking at, this is different. So this one explains the vehicles through which the crimes were committed, and it has the different firms listed. Some of this goes back as early as 1982. Where the jurisdictions are. So, shell companies are involved. And again, here we go. MBNA America Bank, Old Acre, Biden, and Bel Air LLP, Paradigm Companies LLC. That's a common thing. Name your company something that means best or top or something along those lines, right? Acme, which is pinnacle. Or, you know, something that means something vague that means something that people look up to. Oswego,
I need to remind people that this is why America invaded Iraq in 2003. This is why the West invaded Iraq in 2003 and continued to invade it to this day, right? Because Iraq was under the thumb of a crime family, namely the Hussein family. It was led by Saddam, but it had other agents such as Uday Hussein, who's often cited as the most psychopathic individual who ever lived. And yes, that's okay, I won't even get into it. But yeah, this was, and I'm making the case for the pro-Iraq war people, even though I'm very much not on that side. But the case for invading Iraq was that Iraq was being ruled by a crime family. It wasn't just Saddam Hussein. It was him and his entire family, because he was able to coerce his entire family into doing his bidding, into enacting this sort of totalitarianism, into breaking the law as and when they could get away with breaking the law, which was quite a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
Right? And yeah, I wanted to remind you of the name Uday Hussein so that you can look up exactly what the hell he did to the people of Iraq. And yeah, this, part of me is like, yeah, maybe this is a good reason to invade a country when it's been taken over by a family as ruthlessly criminal as this. At some point you have to go, okay, I know it has nothing to do with us, but if we don't do anything, then this is going to inflate to awful levels of bullshit. And that's why that happened. And I'm, despite all that, I'm still at the level of well, it's not our problem. But the Biden cartel is your problem. Is very much your problem. So what country do we invade to deal with the problem of the Biden cartel? That would be the good old U.S. of A.
I was gonna say Ukraine.
Nope. Nope. The United States needs to invade the United States.
Yes.
Yes.
And this does continue. I did not intend to do that. Let's go back here. There we go. Every time I click on this page, it does something that wasn't what I was trying to do. But yeah, they also had non-profits. Non-profit shell companies. Like, bunch of them. And they had some funny names. Or they had some organizations that they got quite a bit of money from. But, yeah. Business model for Hunter and Joe's siblings was simple, but required walking a high and delicate tightrope. Sell Joe's influence over the American government as its president and his previously vice president, senior senator from Delaware. Execute the Delaware way while attracting as little law enforcement attention as possible. Tightrope required scant knowledge in the nitty-gritty business operations. And after meticulously reviewing 128,000 plus emails on the Biden laptop, Marco Polo says they're confident in confirming that Hunter did almost nothing in the way of day-to-day business management, and said he served in puff positions as a figurehead for an array of vanilla organizations such as the Center for National Policy, all the way down to the gutter of American politics, lobbying on behalf of online gambling companies. One of Hunter's few public speaking engagements was on 11/4/2015. He accepted an award on behalf of his deceased brother, Poe. So there you go. Again, we're looking at this organization that used fake businesses, right? Fake foundations, fake charitable organizations, and fake jobs at real businesses as a means of money laundering, as a means of selling Joe Biden's influence as a policymaker. So, foreign leaders, oligarchs, businesses that had interest in American activities could hire Hunter Biden or buy consulting services from one of the Biden family's shell companies and use that money to buy influence with Joe Biden, buy favor for their companies, or buy favor for their interests as national leaders or as oligarchs. And there really wasn't any activity that, like, everybody's been wondering, how the heck did Hunter Biden do all this stuff while he was stoned and everything? It's because he didn't do it. He was pretty much just an empty shell himself. Shell positions, shell jobs, shell everything. He was a facade. Just like the businesses were facades, the positions were facades, everything was a facade. And behind the facade was a whole hell of a lot of money.
Just like Uday Hussein.
Mm-hmm.
Except he raped brides at their weddings as he passed them by in his car. Whereas, Hunter just fucked prostitutes while smoking crack in Ukraine. It's not as bad. I'm not saying it's as bad, but it's a similar position. My dad is in charge, so I get to sort of fuck over your country economically, and I get to do it because the mass media in my home country is just going to completely pretend that I didn't do it.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we're dealing with, right? So then, in the context of this information, you notice there was stuff in that list that was before Burisma, and there was stuff in that list that was after Burisma. Well, where Burisma showed up, there were violations of federal, and if I remember right, more than one violation of federal law. But in any case, it was just business as usual. What was shocking to the American public that Hunter Biden might have been given this job for no reason other than because it would satisfy the influence with regard to the Biden family, right? And Biden using his influence, his ability to say, "Oh, you're not getting the $1 billion," to keep Burisma from getting investigated. That may have been shocking, but it wasn't even the tip of the iceberg. It was just this tiny. It was like a snowflake in all of the different things that this family has done, and in particular the things this family has done in the way of selling influence and using fake everything to launder the money. They wouldn't have been able to do that on their own. We're not going to get into it tonight, but they had a lot of cooperation. So the next section, and before I get into this section, I'm definitely going to have to go through it because I've already seen one bikini picture, so I want to make sure there's not stuff that we can't show on YouTube. But Marco Polo refers to them as fixers. Fixer being, somebody that pays off debts, somebody that strong arms witnesses, somebody that uses threats to gain cooperation from business contacts, organizations, individuals, so on. Fixers. There's something broken in the organization. Something's not working the way we want it to. Go fix it. And so that's what we'll start with next week. But yeah, this is. Do you feel dirty yet? Because this makes me want to go take a shower. Just what we've read, and the more.
What do you mean dirty yet?
Yeah.
This thing is, these people are just disgusting from top to bottom. Like, ugh, I need a goddamn.
Yeah. And this is the influence. This is the power that has led to the conflict that we're looking at right now in Ukraine. That had Trump not gotten elected, would have expanded to, I'm pretty sure, because they were already starting to call for it. They would say boots on the ground, but men from the United States being sent to Ukraine to fight there. So, yeah, I'm, that's true. Derek Workman says, hey, let's not blame YouTube. Most of us don't want to see those photos, Hannah. I can't blame you for that.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to have to see them. But everybody else doesn't have to see them. But with that said, yeah, this is... Can you imagine another 4 years of Joe Biden knowing this stuff?
No way. No fucking way. I mean, I couldn't imagine another 4 years, and I didn't even need this confirmation.
So I want you to consider what was going on at the end of his administration, right? Yes, it was coming out. The information was coming out. This report had come out already, right? We knew a lot of this information already. Not all of it, because it wasn't all reported on. Little bits were reported on by the right-wing media, but not so much. Not this deep. Until you get into the non-establishment media, and then there's some people that have been covering it way more in-depth than me. But what I'm looking at here is a couple of things. So what we just talked about, everything we just talked about, right? Imagine if you had a family that did this stuff. How long would it take for all of you to end up in jail? Right? How many companies would it take for you to end up getting busted for money laundering, for theft, for fraud, for all of the different violations that the Biden family engaged in? Richard Beer, I think you're wrong about that. Richard Beer says he'd rather see me in a bikini. I'm 52 years old. I am in really crappy shape right now. And am not, like, maybe 30 years ago, I would have looked good in a bikini. Definitely not this year. This is not my year for a bikini. This isn't even my year for a one-piece bathing suit. So, but yeah. Like, that's a weird little sidetrack. No, not happening. Sorry. But yeah, just think about you being the Biden crime family, you being any member of the Biden crime family. How long would it be before you ended up in jail? Like, the only thing that kept that from happening with Biden's family was his political influence and his ability to get cooperation from other people in government. Right? The bureaucracy, the law enforcement agencies, the banks that he was involved with. All of these, obviously, banks are not part of government, but the funding that was done, that people defaulted on in his family, banks don't usually just give up on that very easily. Right? That's not something that they like sit around and be like, oh yeah, we lost a couple $1 million, no big deal. Unless there's influence to be bought. So, like, we're looking at activities going back to 2010. 2009, I think, was the earliest date that I saw mentioned in that list, actually. And nobody went to jail. People got arrested and didn't go to jail. So the level of corruption isn't just within this family, right? They have some sort of influence within government, outside of their family, that allows them to float like this, and that's being part of the political establishment. So as the little guy, as the original voter, the person that decides, I'm going to help get this person or that person put into office, you got to be aware that when you're voting for establishment politicians or for politicians who run against the establishment, either way, you're voting for people who are either going to have the same network of influence, or you're voting for people that are going to interrupt it, that are going to disrupt it. And when I look at this, what I see is a group of people that is so entrenched in the political system and so sociopathically willing to essentially exploit their power and their influence for money, that they don't care that they're laundering it in men's blood. And when you look at the wars that we're starting, the wars that were heating up in around the world, that the United States was looking at, we had, originally it starts out, one front, then we have two fronts that we're looking at. Gosh, this might happen in Ukraine and Syria. Then, nope, not Ukraine and Syria, it's Ukraine and Iraq. Oh, no, wait, now there's Ukraine, Syria, and Iraq. And Turkey. And oh, by the way, China, too. And it's like, you leave them in long enough, you give them enough power, you let them do this shit for so many years, they don't get satisfied that, oh, we made all this money, now we can sit back and retire and enjoy it.
Yeah, no, it's never enough.
No, they want more blood. They need to launder more money. They start more wars, and they send more of you to die in some foreign country somewhere on the premise of being a freedom fighter, or on the premise of being the world police, on the premise of saving those women over there from that patriarchy over there, right? On the premise of these people are terrorists and they're going to come get us. On the premise of this was a free country and that other country's the bad guys for invading them. But the reality is, we just stole this much money from this company and we need something to wash it in. I need more men's blood right now. Stat, get it here. Okay, boots on the ground. And there you go.
Yep.
That's pretty much the MO of the United States government right now. So, for everybody that's mad that a large number of us elected a disruptor, should be thanking God that we elected a disruptor. Hopefully, he will be able to disrupt hard enough to put the kibosh to a lot of that. He's walking into a hell of a mess. And this is the family that created it. Apex, right? Apex fallacy. Mr. Joe Biden is able to get away with all this stuff. Mr. Joe Biden's family is able to get away with all this stuff. And had they remained in office, had they remained in power, had they remained in a position to continue to sell influence and stuff, you would be the ones paying the price. So, with that,
and he's here, and they are here.
Yeah.
Because people know how many crimes they've committed. This is the big problem of democracy that nobody can articulate. Because the problem with democracy is you put people in charge who want to make money and who have compromising situations that can lead them to be led in any given direction by the people who know about the crimes they've committed. And this is why we to say that the Biden cartel, the Bob, is and always has been controlled by the Obama cartel, the OBOB, which we might supposed to, and before that the Clinton cartel, the
and the
Clinton,
Bushes,
and I don't know how to put that together in
the Bob,
the Bob, the Clinton bureaucracy or whatever.
There has been organized crime in Washington for the entire lifespan of Gen X plus, at least going back to the Kennedy presidency. At least.
It goes back far beyond any history can record. I mean, it's the same for every government in every country. Going back to the induction of democracy, and even before that. I mean, I'm not a monarchist, And I know very few people who are, but I know some people who are. And people like to say that the problem with any autocracy is that it can be corrupted. But if you really want to address the problem of autocracy, then you really need to put people in charge who cannot be corrupted. And I'm sorry, but that does mean putting billionaires in charge. Because if someone is already independently wealthy, then they can't be corrupted by all of these kickbacks, by all of these selling your country off to the highest bidder. And that's, it looks like an insurmountable problem, but it's not insurmountable. You need to put people in charge who cannot be corrupted. And yeah, there's a lot of debate happening between the MAGA people and the tech bros right now about how many Indians they can import into the country to apparently deal with the problem of making America number one. We're going to do that. Apparently going to involve in importing 1 million Indians and whatnot. And that's all going to be very difficult. But at the end of the day, you really need someone to put America first. And it's difficult to even prescribe what that would entail, putting America first. It's particularly difficult for America because the Americas are run by people from another country, mostly Europeans. America, and by America I mean everyone from Canada to Argentina, is Europeans creating a new world based on the on the bare bones ideas of Europe, and that's why it's become so racialized and genderized, because it's not based on natives. It's necessarily based on people who are not natives. Or at least it won't be for another few hundred years, because the vast majority of people who live in America are not American by origin. They mostly European by origin. America, and by that I mean North America and South America, Central America, is Europeans trying to create a new Europe. And that's, it's a noble project to some degree, but obviously it's going to encounter problems. And that seems to be why Americans are so obsessed with race, in a way Europeans are not. Europeans don't have to stress about race, because we have thousands of years of history based on culture. We don't have to think about race. We just have this culture that we've had in Europe for thousands of years. Whereas America, and again, I mean the Americas, has had to try and create a new culture that's not supposed to be based on race. And ironically, they've found themselves obsessed with race. Because that's how they replace this cultural importance with something else. Like, what does culture mean if it doesn't involve race? And that seems like an easy question to answer. But turns out it's not. Because what does culture mean if it's not based on humans and where those humans came from? And yeah, I'm trying to address this whole idea of the arguments that the MAGA Americans are having with
tech bros.
What the tech bros? Yes.
I've had some little bits and pieces of that argument come my way, and the thing about importing people into the United States as a stopgap with regard to areas where there's a shortage of people who have certain skills, and there's a glut of employers that need those skills. People have always objected and yelled and screamed about that. But the thing that makes American culture is that we have an entire history of throwing people together who come from other cultures, who then, by proximity and by struggling to make their proximity work and engage in teamwork in their respective jobs and businesses and so on, and be neighbors despite having massive differences in where they came from and what they learned growing up and everything, is that I'm not going to say a melting pot because that doesn't work, but American culture is a lot of times a culture of metamorphosis, where you start out with one fairly well-rounded personality, and by the time you've experienced years and years of growth and change as a human being, you have a different personality. And it's partly like the Venn diagram between your old personality and your new personality would have a lot of overlap. It'd be mostly overlap. But you leave a lot of stuff behind that you learn is really not important. And you learn a lot from meeting people whose early formative experiences took place in an entirely different environment that you haven't experienced. So America really is a culture of metamorphosis. And part of that is, dealing with the fact that people from dramatically different cultures are going to come here and assimilate into this culture of metamorphosis, and they're also going to contribute to the culture of metamorphosis. They're going to change things within the culture. There are certain things that are going to be staples that are fairly static within the culture, that are characteristics of the country from its formation. And one of those is its being a capitalistic nation. It's communists aren't going to like to hear this, but America has always been and always will be a capitalist nation. When it stops being capitalist, it'll stop being. But it's our pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of lifestyle in the United States. Our ability to respond to hardship by problem solving instead of crying about it and looking for help somewhere else. It has always been a part of our culture. And our ability to, lock hands with neighbors that have very little in common with us and attack a problem head on together sometimes even despite having language barriers. That's part of American culture. That's a staple of American culture. And what ends up happening is we use a lot of these things to fit people into American culture who have not at all experienced any of it. So I'm not going to necessarily say that you can't bring people from an entirely different culture into this country and have it work. Right? That's not the problem with immigration into the United States. The problem with immigration in the United States right now is it's being done indiscriminately in regard to the criminality of certain immigrants, not necessarily from India, but more from south of the border, and the substances that are coming in across the southern border, and whether the immigrants are really immigrating or whether they're being trafficked. There's a lot of problems like that. I think that it's kind of a red herring to be worried about bringing people from India to do jobs where maybe there's currently a shortage of people with those skills and a glut of companies that need people with those skills. And that's kind of a distraction from the fact that we've got cartels sending their cartel members across the border with trafficked people, including children, and drugs and guns, and that's a much bigger issue in my opinion. And honestly, if you're going to ask me whether I'd rather live next door to tech bro from India or a cartel member from Mexico, I'll take the tech bro. Thanks. I'm much more likely to have a good experience with that neighbor than with the cartel member. But in any case, again, this is not really to do necessarily with what we've been talking about. But in terms of what we did cover, with regard to this, like I said, next week we'll get in more to the rest of the story on the crimes. We'll get into maybe a little bit more on the business-related crimes, and then I'm going to have to look at the report and see if there's anything else that we really need to talk about before I get back into how this relates to the establishment and its interference with other countries. Because once we get through the parts of this that I wanted to talk about in relation to our interference with Ukraine, I actually want to get into a whole other area of CIA interference that has also contributed to a lot of men's wartime deaths and a lot of actual conflicts within the United States and between the United States and Middle Eastern countries. So that's going to be a whole nother ballgame, though, whole nother discussion. And its relevance really is in the military-industrial complex and how much of that money really is just money being laundered in men's blood again. And that goes back to how the military service that is required of men or expected of men contributes to your voting rights, how that is related to your voting rights. And so after we get through that, we're going to get right back into the suffrage stuff. So you kind of gives you an idea of where we're going from here. And this is somewhat of a tangent, but not completely a tangent because it relates to that. So there you go. Derek says, is Hannah going to talk about Air America? I'm going to be talking about a lot of things. We're going to jump back and forth in history a little bit. So, you'll see, once we get started, there's quite a bit to discuss. But with that, I am going to call it a show, because I don't want to start this next section. So, thanks everybody for listening. Yes, I will probably be getting into that too, Derek. U.S. government creating LSD. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks to my two co-hosts for going through this material with me. Thanks to everybody who works in the background to make HBR Talk happen. And good night, all.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.